Okay, so how do I know when to use the sine or the cosine? So what I do is I look at the graph, I look for the midline. So for this one here, this is right out of the textbook, so you can look at them too. I see the midline is y equals -4. Do you see how that graph crosses the midline at one of these lattice points, whereas the peaks and the valleys don't? I mean, yeah, it's probably 0.5 and 1.5 and 2.5, but I don't know that for sure. I do know the point 0, -4 and 1, -4 and 2, -4 are on that line, on that curve. So to me, this is a sine graph. I would use a sine graph with an amplitude of what, 3, and it would no left-right shift. It's right on the horizontal, or right on the y-axis. And now this graph, I see the midline is probably at y equals 1, going above and below it 2. Now you see how that's a nice lattice point, whereas the midline, well, I guess you could argue the midline's there too. So for this graph, it wouldn't matter whether you used a sine or a cosine. Though if I used a cosine, I don't have to do any left-right shift. I mean, I could say 2. So what I would do, is what's the period? 4 pi. So I would say, let's see, 2 pi over 4 pi is 1/2. So I would say, I would say, so for this one, I would say y equals positive 2 cosine of, remember, the 2 pi over b, 2 pi over the period is b. In this case, the period is 4 pi. That would be 1/2 x. 1/2, come on, work. 1/2 x, x plus, let's see, plus 1 would be the y, would be the horizontal line. I could use a cosine here because it does cross it on the midline. So if I go with that 3 pi one, it would be 2 sine of 1/2 half times x minus 3 pi plus 1. So that would be these would graph equivalent. But see how the cosine's a heck of a lot less complicated. See how this one, now for this one here, let me clear out this thing. That has a nice lattice point there. The midline, what is the midline here? It's going up. It's a distance of 6, so halfway would be 3. So the midline would be y equals -1. See how that's not a nice lattice point? I would definitely use a cosine graph. Okay, so look for those lattice points, and I think that's going to help you out a lot. Okay, and then that's how I know the difference. Okay, all right. So that's how I do it. Hopefully that helps.